saved him many times, Stokes said. Oh, Annalie looked over at Gabble back on his feet and smiled sheepishly. Sorry for the sand. Gabble, did you just let a little girl best you with sand? Michael asked. I could have most certainly taken her down with one move, but I don't hurt humans. Plus, she's a lady, not a little girl. The master of the Roosh fighting art got put in his place by a lady, Michael said. He took Annalie's hand and bowed. Thank you, my dearest. A hint of a smile crossed Annalie's face. Gabble pushed Michael out of the way, took her hand and bowed as well. No harm done here, sweet lady. Nice to meet you. Gabble at your service. Sorry, again. She turned to Michael with an arched eyebrow. So, other than finding myself, can you tell me why I'm here? Apparently, Teo doesn't know. That's not fair, he said, irritated by her accusation. Michael cleared his throat. Talia will answer your questions better than I can. That's what I've heard. I can't wait for this Talia person to tell me why Teo Dunnery forced me to come to the desert. She glared at Teo. I hope it's worth it. It is, Michael said. The next seal is as much for you to find as for Teo to find. Me? With Teo's help, of course. It deals with your biggest fear. What fear? That's for Talia to explain, but I will tell you that even the seal Teo has can easily be lost if you don't find the next one soon. So I suggest we get going. Talia is waiting for us. Michael turned and waddled away. Teo knew Annalie was as clueless as he had been on his first day in the other world. He could see it in the way she studied the Roosh and watched the sky for the Shattukai. She was more concerned about her safety than him losing his seal, but he knew what losing that seal would mean. All of his fear would return. He couldn't let that happen. Chapter 4. So the white bats are Roosh and there are black bats called Shattukai, Annalie asked. Yes, but we Roosh are beautiful and they are not, Gabble replied. Teo had to bite his tongue to keep from piping in. He knew all this and he wanted to let Annalie know that he knew. He'd told her about the book and the other world. She knew he'd been here. So why was she more interested in the Roosh's answers than his? And Talia is a wizard and this is all magic? No, Talia is a mystic and this isn't magic, Teo answered for Gabble. Well, sorry if I don't know everything yet, Your Royal Highness. If I remember correctly, you need me here and I don't want to be here, so you'd better be nicer to me if you want my help. She looked back at Gabble. So, how can you talk? What kind of question is that? He rolled his eyes. He didn't want to upset her any more than he already had. This quest would be impossible without her. They left the desert, travelling through a forest that Teo didn't remember. Michael, why aren't we going through the Roosh village to get to Mount Veritas? We're taking a more direct path. I scouted it out, Stokes chimed in. Yes, Stokes found it. Time is short. You must reach the doors as quickly as possible. Also, if we were to go through the village, too many Roosh would delay us, eager to see a human again. They've all heard by now. Which doors? Annalie asked. You'll see when we reach the mountain, Teo said. It's hard to describe. Try anyway, she demanded. Just tell me what to expect. Okay, there are 5 of them and they're different colours with symbols like on my shoulder, but not everyone can open them. She sighed, frustrated. Maybe someone else should try to explain then. If you wait, you'll see for yourself, he mumbled. Gabble wobbled up beside Michael. This seems to be taking longer than I remember. I thought it was supposed to be a more direct route. Yes, well, we were flying last time. Stokes, are you sure this is right? Are you trying to go toward the mountain? A tiny voice asked from behind them. The travellers spun around, startled. Teo reached behind his back and grabbed his staff, readying himself to fight. But there was no sign of anyone. Suddenly, a young girl with grey eyes stepped out from behind a large tree, staring at them with great excitement. Her skin was almost grey, cracked like broken concrete. "What's that smell?" Annalie whispered. Teo inhaled and coughed. Annalie was right. The stench was rotten, awful. "She's Horde," Michael said, surprised. "My name's Maya. I'm sorry if I frightened you, but I can help you find your way. My mother and I have lived in these woods for a while now." "Why aren't you in one of the Horde cities?" Gabble asked. "We were banished," she said gracefully, walking closer. "But Talia taught us the ways of Elion." Annalie backed away as she approached, so Maya stopped. But Teo was intrigued. "You know Talia?" She grinned. "Yes, he's a very wise man." "Stokes, what is Horde?" "Horde is what my people are called," Maya said. "Our skin is covered in a disease that causes us much pain. Horde believes that Elion is evil, but I know differently. Do you know him?" "I do." The mention of Elion reminded him of the reason he'd returned. "When the Horde bathe in the Red Lakes, they encounter Elion, and that experience heals them of many issues," Gabble said, "including their skin disease." "But if you believe in Elion, why are you still Horde?" Teo asked. "Why haven't you been to the Red Lakes to heal yourself?" "Talia is teaching me and my mother that we are beautiful. Even though our skin may not be, our beauty lies inside us." "You chose to stay like that for a lesson?" Annalie asked. Maya nodded sheepishly. "I don't think I could do that. I wouldn't be able to look in the mirror." She put a strand of loose hair behind her ear. "It's hard enough as it is." "She's afraid." Teo looked up at her shocked. Did Annalie not know how beautiful she was? He'd spent most of his life in fear, and he knew it when he saw it. Annalie was afraid. Could a person be afraid of not looking pretty enough? Didn't make sense, but she was definitely afraid of something. He shook the assumption away and faced little Maya again. "It's very nice to meet you, Maya. I do think we may need some help. My Arush friends are kind of lost." "I've never seen Arush before," she said, staring at Gabble. "You're as cute as Talia said." "He said that? I would have said fierce." Gabble flashed a grin. Stokes waddled up to her. "I've never seen Horde before, but I'm glad to meet you. The sweetest Horde alive, surely." He bowed. Maya giggled and returned the bow. "I suppose I got us lost," Stokes said sheepishly. "So if you know the way—" "Of course, follow me." They followed Mayo through the forest. Teo's mind buzzed with new information. Red Lakes and Horde? There were so many questions he wanted to ask, but he didn't know how to ask them, and he didn't want to look clueless in front of Annalie. Annalie stayed at the far back of the group. She had pulled the neck of her dress up over her mouth and nose. He slowed down, allowing her to catch up with him. "Hey, I know she smells, but you don't have to be rude." "I'm not being rude. Besides, it's not the smell." She frowned. "What is it then? Her looks?" Silence. His mouth fell open. He couldn't believe it. "It's because you think she's ugly?" She shushed him. "I never said that." "But you thought it. It's not like you don't think it too." She was right. He had thought it. Maya certainly wouldn't be called pretty in the other world. At school, everyone would stay as far away as possible. They came to the edge of a mountain where a long flight of steps rose to a cavern above them. "This is where I say goodbye," Maya said. "I think you will find Talia at the top." "Will we see you again?" he said. He hoped so. "Only Elion knows." And with that, she headed into the forest and vanished from sight. "Well, let's start climbing, I guess," Stokes said. The group travelled in silence. Teo couldn't stop thinking of Maya and the Horde. He guessed Annalie's mind was on the same thing, but where he was curious, She was clearly bothered. He wondered how she'd do with the rest of the journey. He knew nothing of what was behind the second door. What if she was too weak to find the second seal? The stairs ended at a large cavern, and inside were the two giant wooden doors he'd entered through last time. Annalie gasped. Wow! Wait until you see what's behind them, he said, encouraged by her excitement. Michael knocked 3 times as he'd done before, and the doors swung open. The group entered, following the torchlit tunnel until they came to the room with the 5 coloured doors. On each side of the doors hung unlit torches. Teo touched his shoulder, white like the circle above the white door. He'd been afraid when he walked through that door. Talia stood to their left, dressed in a long robe, hands behind his back. His beard was as white as his cloak, and his eyes a brilliant green. He lowered his arms and winked. Welcome back, young Teo. He offered Annalie a raised brow and a warm smile. And it's so nice to see you here, Miss Annalie. I'm glad you came. My name is Talia. She stared at a loss for words. Not to worry, my dear, I do not bite. No, I'm sure you don't, she stammered. Sorry, you make it sound like it was my choice to come. Talia chuckled. But you did choose it, my dear, just not in the way that you think you did. At any rate, you will soon thank Teo for doing as I asked. If you want to blame anyone, blame me. I told him to bring you here. Why me? You'll see. A silence passed over the group, as if Talia were allowing her a moment to think. Well then, we should go through the second door, right? Stokes asked. Not so fast, my brave little Roosh. Teo and Annalie must go through the door alone. No Roosh friends this time. What? Teo didn't like this at all. There was no way he could survive without the Roosh. Have faith in yourself, Talia clapped, and immediately the 2 torches next to the second door sparked to life, the green door. Annalie flinched and grabbed Teo's hand. This will be a great adventure, Teo, Stokes said. I will be waiting for you. Remember everything I taught you and you'll be fine. Everything you taught him? Michael asked. Stokes hadn't really taught him anything. If anything, the young Ruth was as much a student as Teo. Don't fear, Annalie, Gabble said with a wink. Teo is a master of the staff, if I do say so myself. It is time, Talia said. Aren't there any other instructions? Teo asked frantically. Last time you told me where to go and what to do. Talia faced Annalie and looked deep into her eyes. When you learn to love the one you first despised, you will find the seal and go back home. It's the only instruction you need. A familiar feeling bubbled inside Teo's belly. Understanding the mission depended on Annalie, and Annalie alone, and that made him uneasy. So then what was his role? You will support her with all you know, Talia said, as if he'd heard Teo's thoughts. Again. Teo nodded at Talia, gave Annalie's hand a squeeze, and then walked through the door, guiding her forward. It's okay. Follow me. Oh, there they are, ready to go through that door. That's a big deal, hey? He placed his free hand on the handle, turned the knob, and cracked the door a smidge. The door sprang wide open of its own accord. Warm light filled the doorway. I'm afraid, she said as the light crackled and swirled in front of them. Everything will be okay, I promise. A promise he wasn't sure about, really. He wasn't sure at all. Come on. The moment he stepped forward, the light began to pull them both through the door. Then they were floating in a tunnel of beautiful, warm light. Teo, she cried.